This is an experience that all of you have had even when you were infants, even when you were very, very small. You felt it for the first time when you were a small baby and your parents put you down in your bed so that they could get some sleep of their own or maybe run some errands. You felt it when you were a child, when someone who you were very close to, one of your best friends perhaps, someone that you looked up to, wanted to spend time with someone else instead of with you. You felt it when you moved out on your own, away from the parental nest for the first time in your lives. You felt it when you went to any kind of crowded public place and you got to see all the relationships that other people have with each other that you are not allowed to join or not invited to join. The experience is called loneliness. A very deep, very profound experience that everyone has. Loneliness is a very, very complicated experience. It's full of our relationships with ourselves as well as one another, and our relationships with our own mind and heart and body and so on. You can feel very lonely even in a very crowded place, surrounded by thousands of people. You can feel profoundly close and connected to someone even while you're in like a sailboat in the middle of the Atlantic and you're 3,000 kilometers away from the nearest other human being. You can crave companionship even at the same time that you crave solitude. Many people might say, though, that there's an important distinction between loneliness and being alone. They might want to say that one is a deeply painful psychological experience. The other is the mere absence of people, and that's not so bad after all. You can be happy or unhappy with or without people. That's certainly true. Some people may also want to point to social or economic or political explanations for why there's apparently more social isolation in our world now than there has ever been before. We might point to factors like increased population density of major cities, which creates stress for people, or factors like the increased disparity between the rich and the poor, which also creates a lot of stress in people's lives. Now, many of you may say that there's some obvious ways out. You know, you might say all you need is love, right? Love lifts us up where we belong. Love is a many splendid thing. It's like something that's written in every pop song ever written, and so we never have any kind of alternative narrative what to do. If someone says you're lonely, that's somehow your fault because there's everybody else around you, and all you need to do is fall in love. Well, that may well be helpful, and you may be able to enjoy a wonderful life, very close to the person who you love, and always be happy because you spend every waking moment with that person. But at the end of the day, one of you falls asleep before the other one does. It consigns the other to solitude for a while. Loneliness is not just a social condition. It is not just a political circumstance or an economic arrangement. Well, it is those things, but it is also an existential condition. It is a way of our being in the world. And since it is a way of being in the world, there's nothing you can do about it, really. There's no cure for it. There's not even a prevention. Loneliness is actually not the problem. The many, many insane, crazy, ridiculous, self-destructive, and harmful things that we do to avoid loneliness, that is the problem. And that's a problem we can solve, too, actually. And some of those problems are very simple and probably harm no one. Think about somebody who, when they go home and they happen to be by themselves for a few hours, the first thing that they'll do is turn on the television or the radio. Not because they want to listen or to watch, but because they can't stand the silence. That's where the problem really is, right? It's in all these destructive things that we do to ourselves and to each other to avoid loneliness. Now, why do people not want to look at themselves? Why do they want to avoid this experience? Well, because when you are alone, and you have only yourself and your own thoughts in front of you, the place where you look is inside your own self, right? You examine yourself, as Socrates would say. A lot of people really don't like what they see, and they will do very nearly anything to avoid having to see themselves as they really are. They might feel fear, they might feel anxiety, they might feel guilt or shame, or they might feel the pain of unrequited love or the pain of great plans and dreams that broke down. They might feel begrudging resentment, all the kinds of problems that arise when you've got no stimulation outside of your mind, and then you look at yourself and people often really don't like what they see. And social pressures may exacerbate that and make it worse. Advertising, for example, which creates anxiety in a lot of people's minds. But there's more to it than that too, actually. There's also an existential level where if you are on your own and you're only looking at yourself, you might suddenly contemplate the idea that your life has no meaning. You might give a venue to the thought that your life is utterly worthless and that you will disappear at some point and no one will miss you. And a lot of people just don't want to face that possibility. You know, it's one of the deepest fears that we have, the most unacknowledged and yet the most profound fear that people have, that their life might actually mean nothing. Nobody wants to contemplate that. And so they'll do very nearly anything to avoid that experience. What I think we can do about it. It doesn't exactly solve the problem of loneliness because, as I said, it is an existential condition. It's a part of our way of being in the world, so there's really nothing you can do about it. But there are things that we can do to push the frontiers of loneliness back. Create something sacred. You know what the sacred is? It is that which serves as your partner in your search for the highest and deepest things. So it could be something religious, it could be God, but it could also be something very simple, like the kitchen table where you and your family and friends eat dinner together. Right? That's what the sacred is. And that's what the I am here allows to emerge. It's that which emerges from relationships when those relationships are healthy, but when we are founding our relationship upon this statement of presence that pushes the boundaries of loneliness back a little bit, makes our world more interesting, more inhabited, more beautiful. Something I would like all of you to do today, sometime today during the break or afterwards, get in touch with someone who is very important to you, but whom you have not spoken to in a long time. And remind that person that you're there, and be reminded that that friend of yours is also here on earth as well. And see if you can, again, create a meaningful relationship with that person. See that you can push back the boundaries of loneliness for the both of you again.